It's 10 o'clock. We'll call this meeting of Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. This time I'd like to call on Commissioner Mahler to give the invocation.
Bow with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today to praise you for the many blessings that you've bestowed on us, not just today, but all these many years that we've been able to walk this earth in the greatest country that has ever been. Lord, we thank you for the freedoms. We thank you for just the privileges that we have of living in this country and being able to worship you and run our own government and take care of business. And we understand that sometimes we take that for granted, and we just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for our health. We would ask certainly that you would watch over the many people that are suffering today, whether it be from the COVID outbreak or other diseases. Lord, you are the great physician, and we just ask that you'd wrap your arm around those folks and their families and loved ones and help them through the very tough times they're seeing. Lord, we'd ask that you would bless our country and heal us where we have cracks in the armor, and bring us back together as a people that love you and love one another, can move forward for positive things to come. Lord, we thank you for the many people that volunteer to run toward danger when we want to run away. Our law enforcement, our medical personnel, everyone that's there to take care of us as we move through this life. They're all so vitally important, and we appreciate their service to you and to this country. Lord, we'd ask that you bless this meeting today, guide us and direct us, and help us to make wise decisions that would be favorable in your view. Lord, we just ask all these things in the name of your precious Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, sir. Those on the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Take your seats, please. Okay, at this time I'd ask if there are any public comments by anyone in the audience here or on the telephone. Okay. That began at 10:02 and,
Judge, I had a question on that.
yes, sir.
Tracy, public comments on those when they come, we have no ability for public comments as commissioners? Or should we utilize public comments to tell them about what we jointly have going? How do we jointly share?
Okay. If you all have something that you need to put on the agenda, then you need to make a request. And that's the problem, is that we control our agenda. I know that we have a chair, but I know that there is a way to get things on there. If there's something that needs to be discussed, even if it's not an action item, but it's something that needs to be brought out, like we have the LEC update, we have the
Let me give you an
things that are
example.
going on in the courthouse. That needs to be on the agenda so it can be discussed.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that there's action, but people may be interested in hearing the discussion about that.
What about a joint precinct 5 piece of equipment that laid down this morning on my way to work, and I'm going to have to spend $10,000 to fix? Do I wait to post it on next agenda?
Should we just put a road and bridge report like we do?
Road and bridge updates.
You can do a road and bridge update, but if there is a specific thing, let's talk about that Kenyon Road thing. If we're discussing that one, and we know we are, it needs to be listed on there because people may be interested in being here. And I understand the road and bridge update, but I can't have you guys, if I can stop it, getting too far afield.
Sure.
And
I got thinking about that yesterday, and I didn't know how that comment
right.
would fit in.
But then the other thing is too, if we're talking about moving money or transferring money or how we're gonna handle the money, that's truly an agenda item. And so it needs to be on the agenda in the appropriate way. That's what I'm gonna recommend to you.
Yeah. Well, the only downside to that is not being able to have a discussion on something like that could cost us thousands.
And not being able to act promptly can,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
go back and read you, in there is the ability that we have, that if it's an emergency, that,
A true emergency, and there are very few, sadly, true emergencies. And so, but again, we're gonna be in the workshop on Friday. If it's something that needs a full-on discussion, y'all can make requests for it to be on Monday's agenda at the same time it's on the workshop agenda request. Discuss it on Monday, and then whatever, on Friday, and then on Monday, if you need to take action, you can take action. That's how I'm gonna recommend you do it. Y'all put a road and bridge thing on there, an update, these are the roads I'm working on, but when you all branch out into other issues, that's what it gets. Okay?
but we do have a provision from be able to deal with emergencies like that. And I'm not talking about posting, I'm talking about a physical policy that allows that in case of emergency where it's disrupting work or service.
A true emergency situation, and that's tough though, y'all, because just because it just happened yesterday, or just happened this
Right.
morning, or whatever, that may or may not meet the emergency situation. I mean, we just have to look at it, and I don't know the answer to that.
But separate of the agenda, our policy has some provision to deal with that. So that's where we can take care of that kind of business.
Well, we understand open meetings, and I understand the need for it, and I understand what it's intended to do, but a lot of times it goes beyond the intention of what it was really for, and, I understand, yeah.
100%.
You're quoting the law, and I understand that,
Absolutely,
yeah.
and that's all I've got.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say to y'all. Whatever y'all
Yeah.
do is what y'all do.
I understand.
But my position is, it's our agenda, we control it, we know about it, we put it on there, and we do what we're gonna do.
And it's not often that it comes up, but it does, from time to time, something will pop up that creates a,
Absolutely, and it creates a problem.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway, okay.
Special session is gonna go on again, we can work on a change.
Don't,
Okay.
be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, exactly. All right, it's 10:07, and we will conclude public comments. I'd ask the commissioners to take action on the consent agenda. There are some items that I understand may need to be moved down, or at least enough discussion about them now for the court to take
Yeah,
action.
I have a few.
Okay.
First of all, items 6 and 7. I've been approached by the treasurer, Bob Hampton, I'd like to discuss those and just kind of find some, Cheryl's here and Tracy's here both. There are certain items that have been put on the agenda, requested on the agenda by Cheryl and Tracy.
Okay.
And I don't know the whole story, so I'd like to hear both sides of the pros and cons to doing those things. So item 6, 7,
11 and 12.
11, and 12. I'd like to bring down the general business.
As for items 6 and 7, K-9 funds are restricted funds, so they really need to have all of their activity running through the same account. In the past, and as the way it's set up now.
Hold on just. That's kind of what I was wanting to talk about in general business instead of bringing it in the consent agenda, if that's all right. Okay.
Judge,
'Cause
I'd
it-
make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Hang on a minute. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's get everybody's out here what we're gonna pull down before we start doing that, please. Okay. So 6, 7, and 11 and 12, you all want to bring down to general business?
Yes.
Okay. I had questions on item 4, Commissioner Finnegan. That's,
No, that's not, it's corrected though, isn't it?
It's 225, it's precinct 5 purchase.
And-
okay. Is, that invoice looks kind of squirrely is what I was, it's got two different, of those two different pieces of, they're both having to do with the actual devices that, if you look at the invoice on the back, so that's normal routine, we replace those teeth and the sleeve for the tooth
Yes,
also?
yes.
And-
Only if they get wore down enough.
Yeah,
And Judge, we've got enough, we're hoping that we can make these carry us through next year as well.
okay. What if they change machines?
Well, we asked that if we were okay with the 5 or the 6, because we intended to get the 5, they fit both machines.
Okay.
So, and they gladly would have taken them back, but we knew that next year they'll probably be $2,000 higher. So we opted to keep
Well,
them.
they're not available.
Are not.
Are not.
True. Yeah, that's scarier.
All right, and then Commissioner Beecham on item 8. Did Webfire install those cable runs? Who installed the cable runs that they were ringing down and checking out of the LEC? And, because what I'm wondering is why weren't they properly labeled, that we're having to ring them down, or tone them down?
Let's pull that one and I'll get further information on it.
Okay, so we'll remove item 8.
Yeah,
I mean, I just feel like that we're already paid for that.
okay. I'll get clarification on it.
Okay.
I just
Now-
had a quick question on
Yes, sir.
10.
Ken?
On that, Jeff? They hauling us dirt?
No, we're actually taking some of it they did, Commissioner, but some of it we picked up as well, close proximity to where we store it. And Tracy just told me if we're going to accept that free stuff, we ought to list it on the agenda, and that's why I started doing that.
So they needed to get rid of dirt and we're hauling it?
Yes.
And we need it. This
All right.
is the other half of that. Is that,
Most of it, they can't hold very much up there, Mick. It's coming from close to the corner store there. And so but it's just down there. We're holding it on Old Lake Road, so it's about a mile from them.
400 yards. Okay. All right.
okay. Okay. And I would like to have a motion from Commissioner Watts, if you would, to approve the consent agenda with the removal of items 6 and 7 and moving those down to general business, removal of item 8, and while Commissioner Beecham checks that out, and with the moving of items 11 and 12 down to general business.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any comments on these items? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries 5-0. Okay, let's deal with first item number 6. Or you want to deal with those together, Commissioner?
Yeah, I think both those will go together. Cheryl started a while ago. There again, and what I'm asking for is, I was approached by the treasurer, kind of wanting, he said he didn't know anything about it prior to it going on here. So,
That's
and,
negative, as he was emailed regarding that.
and that's why I just wanted to hear
So they
in
are
court.
restricted funds. Canine funds are restricted. They come in by donation, and then the expenditure of those funds is at the sheriff's discretion for the dogs.
Okay.
So in the past, and because they are restricted, they really do need to run all through the same bank account, the ins and the outs. It makes it clear, makes it transparent, and that also allows us in Munis to give that view-only access to the sheriff's office to monitor that. Currently, the way it is set up as a savings account, we cannot pay from that account. So monies have to be paid from the general operating bank account and then transferred over from the canine account. That muddies the water and it makes it really hard to keep track of. My predecessor kept it on a spreadsheet, and so I don't know that the accounting was necessarily correct in that. So I really do want to run that all through the same bank account, and the only way to facilitate that is to have it as a checking account.
As far as, how is it, right now, is it set up as an investment account?
It's a savings account.
It's just strictly a bank savings account?
That is
And how much what kind of dollar amount are we talking about?
There was about $30,000 in there.
So the savings account accrues some type of interest.
Yes, it has accrued about $116 over the last 6.5 years.
And
Okay.
I would venture to say that it earns about as much as a checking account will earn, Mick.
Right.
And the checking-
like I said, it will make it clear, because I'm not sure all of the expenditures truly came out of that account as work should have over the last years because of the transfers and not keeping track of it.
And that's why I ask. The savings account that we use, is it a interest-bearing checking account?
It is an interest-bearing savings account.
No.
If it's
going
If
to
we,
the checking
if we
account.
switch it to a checking, is it an interest-bearing checking account?
That depends on how it's set up.
That's why I'm asking, because
That falls
I
under
think,
Bob's
I think Bob's
I think
ultimate
he-
goal is to keep money invested where there's always positive money being made for the county.
I understand that, but $116
It's not much money.
It's not much money for something that really does need to be transparent for restricted funds, so that if there are any open records requests, things of those nature, that it's very clear where that money is going and who it's coming from, as opposed to mudding it all up.
Okay.
Is
Bob?
is it possible to have an interest-bearing checking account, a commercial account? At my bank, it's not.
It should be an American National, yes.
I have some.
Okay, I mean, that's fine. I didn't know.
I would think so. but-
Yeah, the one I deal with, if it's a personal account, you can, but if it's a commercial account, it doesn't accrue interest. So just,
Bob, would you like to respond to that, or?
I would. A couple of things, really. One, I did get an email that dictated, not asking. Here's a snapshot of the account itself. So this isn't really Bob Hampton telling you, this is the actual numbers. We're getting about $80 a year on interest. And I understand the concept of restricted funds. The LEC fund is a restricted account, and we give checks on that. My only purpose as treasurer of this county is to look after the taxpayer. We get 0.18, or 28 on this savings account. If we moved it to a regular checking account, it's 0.1. And you say, well, that's really not any money. It's still $50 to the good if we leave it like this and then draw the checks. And if you see, we only had one check in the last 2 years out of that account, which we did, in fact, as Mrs. Jones said. We transferred to the general account and paid it out of the general funds. Now, if that's a pretty significant way of keeping up, I don't argue that, but we could still do checks out of this particular savings account. You get 4 checks a year, 4 checks a month on what is called a gold account, roughly a savings account. But we still maintain a 0.28. So anytime we make money, that's my job, to make money.
You get 4 checks a year off the saving, or
4 checks a
month
month
off the
out of
saving
that, we
account?
can draw.
How does that work? Is it just like, same as a?
Just same as the
savings check?
LEC, yeah.
Is it,
Why
is the
haven't
auditor's
we
office set that
been
up?
paying for checks out of, with the expenses instead of transferring it to the general fund?
Say that one more time, Jeff.
Why haven't we been writing checks to the expenses on this account instead of transferring it to the general fund?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a big deal, really. 1 check in 2 years.
Well, I think that it all has, I don't think
Well-
it's been, I don't think the accounting has been done correctly on the spreadsheet where we're not paying it directly. So we've been paying for these expenses out of the general operating account and not issuing a transfer. So we'll just pay it directly out of the K-9
I'm just-
fund,
Well, let me ask you, so the dog surgery the other day, $12,000.
pay for out of the general operating fund bank account, and then we will need to transfer funds, yes.
But
So
what,
I'd rather,
Right now, we have 38,000 in that account,
What
almost
you-
39.
wouldn't, what he has suggested, if it all stays in the savings account, and he can get 4 checks a month out of it, if you need it, we haven't had that kind of history, that sounds like a pretty good
so
solution
as
to
long
me.
as we can write a physical check directly from that bank account, that's.
And the sheriff would need to do that, correct?
That's
Or-
actually currently being done through our office.
Oh,
The
okay.
sheriff's office can take control over this like a forfeiture account or their detention improvement. Yes, they absolutely can, as these are their funds. If they want to take that in-house, that is truly their option.
But they really have
Currently,
never
they're
indicated
exempt
that.
with us,
Okay.
but they can take it, yes.
Question I have, as far as you brought up Munis a while ago in our record keeping, how does it, staying in Bob's office under a savings account and being able to write a check, is that still something?
Typically, you don't write checks out of savings accounts.
Correct.
The
But
bank would write
Well,
that.
it's called a gold account, Commissioner. And,
all I'm getting at is,
basically a savings.
We were
account,
transferring
but it's the
funds,
same
Mickey.
thing we had.
We were
but
just-
the record keeping
We
part
have
of
that
it,
liquidity.
is it in Munis?
It hasn't been before, no, but we want to be able to physically write a check, so it does
I mean, I think that account should be in Munis somewhere, just to show the,
It
show
is
the
in
money.
Munis, and we record the transfers by journal entry, but we want to apply the direct expense to it.
Yeah.
So you see all of the invoice, they're linked to that bank account. The checks are linked to that bank account. All of that stays within
So
that one account.
Cheryl's wanting to avoid the need to do a transfer and then write a general fund check for an expenditure that actually belongs to K-9.
And I don't disagree with
No,
that either,
but-
but he's saying that he can do it that other way. I don't know why it hasn't been done that way, if you can, but,
Well,
No,
but
if that's possible, it sounds like problem solved. You get the accountability and you write the check out of the account, and we keep the, little bit marginally higher interest rate.
and that marginal interest rate might, as the interest rates go up, it might be better in 6 months
It
than
might
it is
be.
now with inflation, but
It'll be better on a savings account than a checking account.
How would that check be requisitioned then from the bank? Is that done by the sheriff and his designated person, or is that
No,
done?
I set it all up, it's just a matter
We just need to
Make
be
it-
able to run it
just a
through
matter,
AP.
matter of making it happen.
Okay, and
And
then,
the bank account goes down to the bottom of the check, so
okay,
it's just like the LEC.
are you telling me we don't have that kind of savings account today, Bob?
I'm telling you that we aren't writing any checks at LEC.
But we have a gold account.
We have a
we got it,
building.
yes.
That allows us to do that. And from the history, it looks like 4 checks a month would be more than sufficient.
It should be,
Yeah.
but like I said, I'm not sure my predecessor, they did
Right.
the accounting correctly. We
Okay.
have a lot more expenses, they just weren't doing the transfers, so I believe the operating account, the general fund has paid for more canine,
Then it needed
expenses than
to.
they should have over the last couple of years.
What is the guideline on what's paid for out of that fund as out of the sheriff's operating funds?
Well, the canine restricted is basically anything for the canines, and so the money is donated on their behalf, and it's up to the sheriff's office to use it as, for that purpose. And it is up to their discretion on when to use it and when not to use it.
Okay, then when it's in a fund, something they want to pay that they don't pay out of their M&O line for that,
That's correct.
then who signs off on that? Who's responsible for that money? Is that the county treasurer, or is it the individuals that approve the expenditures out of that fund?
Well, when it's donated from the restricted, it becomes the sheriff's responsibility, really. And they decide whether to use it or not, and then they issue authorization for payment to my office, and we decide to write the check or pay the expenditure and then issue the transfer.
Okay, but now, if that's gonna come directly out of that account,
Yes.
it's not gonna go through your
Well, it
office?
should run, it's currently going through my office through part of accounts payable.
Okay,
And Cheryl will write the check.
We will write the check like we do the LEC, if it does actually. do
okay, okay.
Yes.
it seems like that would solve it.
Seems, Mr. Hampton, anything, does that work for you?
Yeah, it
Okay, I think that's,
works fine.
okay.
That's the reason I pointed it out.
Okay, then could we have a motion that, let me try to.
Well, let me ask
Okay,
one
go
more
ahead.
question, Judge. On, either way, I guess checking our savings has interest with it, and I guess Cheryl, on those, that's a special fund auditing function within our
should be
external auditors.
Combine those two
Yes.
together.
And so,
Yeah, that's fine.
either way, I guess they have to calculate the interest and make it balance or reconcile, so, okay. Okay.
Make sure I'm clear on one thing. Make sure that either way, if he keeps that in the savings account, that
As long
account,
as we can physically write a check.
yeah, but that account will still be set up and all documented through Munis, and the
Yes.
checks will come out of Munis also.
That is correct, unless Sheriff Dukes decides that he wants to take it in-house, and then that does not run through Munis.
Okay, well, that's fine. Either way, there's a checks and balances there from the auditor's office to the treasurer's office, and, all right.
But those, on those accounts like this one, Cheryl, that do have special audits, that those audits cost us, can this account pay for that audit?
If it needs it, yes. But, I mean, it usually is wrapped up within, the agency funds that go part of our general
Okay,
audit.
okay.
It's not like CSCD and juvenile.
And that's already established.
So Judge, it seems like to me, the way these are noted on the agenda, if you call the question and there's no action, there's no action. I don't know that we necessarily have to take action to not do something. I don't know that that's appropriate. If you call the question and there's no motion, you call the question, there's no motion, then it fails and we move on and things stay the way they are. That's the way I
Okay.
see how this is written.
What terminates the checking account, though? Isn't
We
there
don't
some-
have
We have a checking.
We don't have one.
No, we don't
We have a savings
Okay.
account that write checks.
Yeah, so-
Everything's right the way it is set up right now.
Things stay as they are,
Okay.
Right.
the way I'm reading these two items.
Yeah.
All right.
Is
Since we
everybody-
pulled it down to general business, we probably should vote on it and just let it
But
fail.
if
no,
you
there's no
call the
motion.
question
Oh,
and
okay.
you don't have a motion to close the savings account,
Right.
Then
There's
it
no
stays,
motion.
Happens.
stays the
and that to me
same.
is cleaner than making
Yeah.
a negative
Right.
motion. It's-
Right.
Okay.
Am I making sense to y'all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, good advice. Okay, then to bring that issue forward, is there any action needed to be taken by the court at this time on items 6 and 7 from the consent agenda? Hearing none, then no action will be taken. Okay. Now, let's go on to items 11 and 12. 11 is the motion to authorize the county treasurer to liquidate all road and bridge investments, deposit funds back into the road and bridge bank account, and correct the deposit allocations to the appropriate road and bridge funds for the county auditor's analysis of the account balances. 12 is a motion to authorize the county treasurer. Let's do 11, and then we'll do 12, because it does separate. Okay. Mr. Hampton?
Well, this is an interesting deal. I didn't even get a dictate on this one. Here's a copy of it. Sure it's in here. So I don't really, my question to the commissioners this morning was, why? Here's the, just to refresh your memory,
Bob,
here's what your road and bridge account looks like at the end of
Let me,
June.
let me tell you, my understanding of why was that those investments were, once they reached maturity, were being divided by 4 and putting back into all 4 precincts.
Well, that's incorrect. And
That's not what happened.
that's not what it is.
Does the interest get divided and put in all 4?
Oh, no, these are standalone deals, and as I explained to the Commissioner Beecham a couple of weeks ago, there's an algorithm supposedly over in the auditor's office. I just deal with the real numbers, Jeff. With the real money. The auditor's office keeps the cycle of what is in a particular budget. So, we try to keep it as comparable as possible, but what I try to give you is where we are financially as a county. And then you guys, you know whether you're overspending, I hope you do, or not, because those numbers actually come out of the auditor's office, your budget numbers. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, is this only a picture of investments, or do I have real cash in the checking account? Under precinct 4 ledger line, do I have cash on top of these investments?
The precinct accounts that you're looking at on this particular page right here represent, once again, the gold or savings accounts of your respective precinct. Then there's only one check writing device, and that's 7099, the Road and Bridge Fund. And that's what Matt and I met with Commissioner Beecham, trying to get a little better handle on the bills coming out. Hopefully this new financial system will allow a little more differentiation on which precinct is spending what. So that's,
I'm still very unclear on how I went from
I am too, Bob, because the
2.3 to
two numbers don't add
1.6.
up.
what numbers are that, Jeff?
Well, these numbers on our investment sheet here are our list of investments per precinct and the audited amounts from the auditor's office. There's a lot less money in the auditor's audited version of our funds versus the investments of our funds. Now,
You're telling me that there's a difference in the total road and bridge fund down here of $6,500,000?
well, no, I'm not telling you apples to apples, because your sheet is through June, and the auditor's sheet ends the end of 2020, so that would have some effect on
I
it.
imagine, yeah. Since our biggest income months are January, February, and usually March.
And Bob, where, on these investment sheets, precinct 5 is not carried, we don't buy any investments with that money?
No,
It's
you know, really,
to,
precinct 5 is kind of an interesting anomaly, because in the old TSG days, precinct 5 balance was a reflection of the other 4 precinct numbers, and that was, as I showed Commissioner Beecham, that was what I was directed early on, to try to keep some sort of balance in that particular deal as far as what we call bank manager in those days.
so you would deposit, used to, a long time ago, into precinct 5 to keep some form
Never
of,
touched the precinct 5 at all, it was always. Precinct 5 is kind of an interesting concept. The bottom
So-
line is, I deal with the real numbers and the real money, and you guys are,
Well,
your budget items and things like that. I mean, the auditor keeps a tight hold on those.
From what you're saying right now, and when you spoke to me earlier, you said that you didn't know the why on this, so Mark's gonna go grab some printouts that you gave him before,
Okay?
but there, I do remember in one of these meetings where they were saying that the fund balances, like on precinct 1, he was at 2.3, and I don't quite understand how those investments were made, and now he's at 1.6. That was his,
Yeah.
Same thing I
that's what
think
I'm trying
Jeff
to
had.
Explain to him.
and I'm still not, what you're explaining is not, I'm not quite understanding it, so. And I see Cheryl wanting to be involved in this conversation too. And it might help you to hear what she has to say so you can answer that question. I don't know, but I'm trying to see why we're wanting to dissolve them. That's what I'm trying
Cheryl,
to.
are you able to pull the December 31, 2020 number, are you able to pull it to June?
Yes, we should be able to do that. We were waiting on all the conversion data to get into Munis, and we're kind of
Yeah.
in between both systems on that. So number 11 comes out of the meeting from confusion with, Mark and that and Bob had. And to make this way possible for tracking purposes, we thought the best way was to, instead of having Road and Bridge has one bank account, and so instead of drawing Road and Bridge cash into one investment, we would keep one investment per precinct. So you all share one bank account, but we track your cash and your investments and your expenses separately through Munis. That's just the way it's designed. So instead of having one investment that might consume money from each of your precincts or a combination thereof, we would have one investment per precinct that you can keep and track. You have access to it or whatever. And then when it matures, goes back to your cash line. It makes it much cleaner on the accounting wise, so that it doesn't look like we have 20% to you, 30% over you. Your investment is your investment, same for 2 and 3 and 4. So that way you know that's your investment, and when it matures, goes back in. Whatever Bob does to reinvest, that's totally, his call as the investment officer for your designation. So for the accounting wise, it's much cleaner to have one for each of you. Then you guys can track it. Your spreadsheet, you don't even need it because you can have access to it. As far as your investment numbers that he gives you in the real money, we keep track of that too on the balance sheet. Cash and investments are part of the balance sheet for your precinct. Fund balance comes from income in, transfers in, which include all your cash and your investments, and the interest earned, less expenses gets you to fund balance. It's basically like net income, if you're looking at P and L, those are the, so you got your balance sheet and you got your P and L. Fund balance is your net income.
And you're saying right now that all the funds are put together and put into one investment?
Sometimes it is that way, yes, where we get that, where we have cash from the Road and Bridge bank account, which contains money from each of you combined.
So,
Sometimes buys one investment. And so then we gotta keep track of how much came from each one of you.
Well, from the sheets that I have here, I'm looking at June 30th, 2020. It's showing me to have roughly 2.4 million in the precinct 1 account, whereas it's showing precinct 4 to have 661,000 and the total road and bridge assets of 5.8. Fast forward a year, I'm down to 1.625. Precinct 4 is up to 1.3, and overall our assets are 6.5. So we've increased in our assets, but I've taken a huge hit, and I haven't done anything different than anyone else up here. I haven't bought any big pieces of equipment. I haven't done an abnormal high amount of road maintenance. When I look back at my April investment numbers, I was at 2.1. What happened between April and June? Where did those investment dollars go?
And that's what I tried to explain to you when we all met. Tracy was there, and Matt, and Jose. I was paying the bills.
But we don't pay bills out of investment money, though. Bills come out of ad valorem.
Your bills actually come out of your gold account, Commissioner. If you'll notice where it says that dark colored area, those come out of your gold account. They're transferred into the 7099 account, the Road and Bridge checking. And in the past, we've had a TSG deal that I was instructed to keep somewhat in balance in the bank manager, and that's how you pointed that out to us, and we have adjusted it, and it'll be a different report next Monday with a financial deal. But that's the background.
So I've spent $500,000 in 2 months? And Commissioner Watts has spent nothing? And actually,
He cut your half million.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mark.
no, I mean, seriously.
No, seriously, it's,
That's,
Well,
it makes no
Mickey's
sense.
the
Like
same
I said,
way.
if you wanted to actually go and know exactly what's in your budget account, then your auditor is your place to go to. What this shows you is we've got $6.5 million in the Road and Bridge Fund. Over four, I mean, we're all supposedly.
But
we're
mine
all here
continues
working
to go
together.
down?
That's the premise. And,
Why does precinct 1
and
continue
I
to
appreciate the
fall?
fact you said, well, I'm not comfortable with this, and we
Okay,
can try
well,
to adjust that.
I'm not.
Well,
And I think
Mark,
the right way to go forward is to
And I
divide it
heard
into
what you
4.
said, as opposed
Yeah.
to me expressing something and then being told not.
No,
Mark, do you have December's number there?
I don't. I just brought June 20, June 21, and
Do
April
you have a
21.
copy of that December one?
I probably do in my file.
It would be interesting to look to see how it goes to this audited number, if you could find it.
All I know is I've been
Bob, do you have
pretty
the,
steady at 2.1, 2.2, 2.3-ish. So I never questioned it until all of a sudden I don't have 2.1, 2.6, or 1.6.
do you have, Bob, the spreadsheet from December?
I do not.
Not with you, but you have it available.
I have it.
Yeah.
It's in my
I
office.
mean, would that be something you could get us? At least we could then look at apples to apples.
Well, you're not gonna be able to compare apples to apples unless you have a line item document by month showing,
No,
if it was
you
2.3,
can.
if it was
Here's what the
2.3 in
auditor's
April,
telling you that come December the 31st, you
Which
have
one is
in
that?
your bank account.
which I don't know which form
This is
that
from
is.
the auditor's office.
Okay.
The reconciled
That's the one that I was
balances.
looking at the numbers on Friday,
Yeah.
that I was doing unless you see something like that though monthly, you can't see what it's going down, but you should be able to, if March is going down monthly, then there should be some kind of, there's gotta be an outgoing on there somewhere, it's going somewhere.
I know, but I'd just like to see what the total investments were December 31, 2020, as opposed to the reconciled balances December 30th, 2020.
I'll be glad to go get it if you want to.
I would love to see
Yeah, let's
that.
see it.
Nancy, would you run a tape on these 5 right here?
Thank you, Bob.
So, 1, 2,
Okay.
3,
While we're waiting on that, let's go down to general business.
yeah.
Item number 1 is review and approve the regular bills for payment and order the county treasurer to disperse the payments.
So
Motion to
moved.
approve.
A second.
Could stop butter a little more.
Now, if we can just figure out where it's coming from, we'll be in good shape.
It's probably coming from precinct 1 from the looks of things.
Not this much.
Well, evidently, that's where it needed to come from, you had more money. We appreciate it.
Any comments or questions on the bills? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries 5-0. Commissioner Beecham, you want to give us an update on law enforcement center and the elevator projects?
Yeah, I believe, Stephen, are you on the phone?
Yes, sir, I'm on the line here with Scott Pitt as well.
Okay, y'all want to give us your update first, and I'll take it from there?
Sure, I'll let Scott kind of go. I'm just returning from vacation today, and I'll be up later this week, so Scott will go ahead and take it on.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
As it stands, we are continuing to work through and get prepared for the jail commission inspection. And at this time, I think us with the county and the design team are in coordination to work through the plumbing fixture, water challenge that we face, and so at the moment, we're continuing to open up the valves and work through that in anticipation of that reinspection. And so, right now, we're finding irregularity between, as we expect, and we've gone through, over the last, I would say, 3 weeks, we've gone through once a week at least, to every single plumbing fixture, and what is functioning one week is not the next. And we've got the manufacturer of the product engaged. They sent us a letter stating that the installation is correct and everything is working fine, except for the fact that it seems as though there's some sort of contaminant debris that's forming while it's not in use. And so we could talk more through with the county and the staff until we get a fully occupied jail. Probably some things that we need to be doing to kind of counteract what's happening with these valves.
Okay. And we did,
Mark, that's pretty much our focus, and we've got Haggerty coming out again tomorrow and I think I sent you guys some emails this morning just to give you, what we're doing right now, and we've got some more people coming out tomorrow to continue to open up the valves and provide, photos of what's taking place so we can try to solve the situation.
okay, and I'll go beyond that. Thank you for that report, Scott, I appreciate that. I did contact the City of Wichita Falls Water Distribution, their water purification department, and they ran 3 water quality tests on that facility. 1 water quality test in a day room sink, 1 water quality test in med-seg shower, and 1 water quality test in a day room combination unit. That water quality report was sent to me. It did not show anything abnormal. In fact, the statement was made by the gentleman who did the test, his name's Hunter. He said that he was very surprised to see how good the quality of water was in a building that was not yet open, that it does show good flow, very low contaminants. The water hardness was not of concern to him. In fact, we talked about pH, which was one of the things that seemed in my mind to be out, because pH was a 9.2, 9.3 on average of the 3 tests, which is a little bit high. Bottled water typically has a 9 pH, but drinking water usually has an 8. He explained to me that because of the heat, the summertime heat, the pH level is high, and that is to avoid corrosion in the pipelines. They do that on purpose. They make the water, I think he called it coating instead of where it dissolves pipe. It's to ensure that their system doesn't collapse. So it's coative. It should not be corroding any pipes. We did show high copper, but the entire building plumbed with copper pipe. And what we're seeing is rust particles. So from that, I do have a third-party plumbing engineer going out this morning to take a look and report back to me their findings. So we can get as many eyes on the problem as we possibly can.
Mark, are we able to capture the debris that comes out of the faucet?
There was no debris in the water sample. The water sample.
I know,
was clean.
but what's physically making those faucets
That's what
clog?
we're trying to determine. I don't know.
The word debris is being used, and you're thinking of, particles. and
Little
things.
particles, I'm thinking of
We're not
little.
finding particles, we're finding rust on the valves.
Yeah, the valve, the photo of the valve I've seen it appears to be rusted. I have not pulled the valve personally, but that's why we have a third party going out to look at that to give us a report.
Mark, I think the term debris and probably a little bit misleading there.
Yeah.
I think it's more the solids that are forming on the valve and solenoid
Okay.
magnet. The solids that form after, in some cases, a week, and it's causing a lack of sensitivity in the magnetism of that component. And so what we found is that 1 week we go through, and just as a scenario, 1 week we go through, the lab works, the next week we go through and the lab doesn't. When we open it up, the solenoid valve that has the magnetic component, just like the picture I sent on Friday, that has solids on it now. It wasn't there the week prior. And so, in light of that, we've got to tackle that. And so
Sure.
it's great news to hear that you've got a third party that's going to review. I would love for that, and I don't know if Kurt is on, but I would love for that data that was provided from the city to be sent to the plumbing engineer of record as well.
And I think it has been through Harper Perkins. It was provided to Harper Perkins to forward on, so.
Okay, great. So, but like I said, the solids that are forming is an abnormal condition, and what Willoughby, the manufacturer, stated is when a system is not in use and/or, even when it is in use as well, the system needs to be and go through regular cleaning process. Otherwise, things like this could take place. So I feel like we need to talk through the next few weeks of process. We don't know when the inspection's gonna be. I think we understand why we don't know that. But there should be a process in place to mitigate this up until
Could,
It's beyond mitigating it to get to the inspection, it's mitigating it for the life of the building.
Correct.
So-
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
but now, is there a difference? Because we have been very active in the last 2 months, performing our tests, flushing our system regularly in all aspects of these water outlet devices. But prior to that, we had a system that was fully loaded for some period of time with not much activity on it. So our residuals would have failed in chlorine or chloramine, any of those, I guess. Could this effect be caused prior to, and we're just dealing with it now that we're actively using them? Because of setting in a stagnant situation, not stagnant, but setting in a situation unused for a long period of time?
Well, I also think that, I mean, there's a chance, I think those kinds of questions, we need to propose those to the engineer of record, but I would say that there's the proper chemical treatment has taken place on the system that was required, and that cleanliness and that flushing has taken place in the system directly prior, from what I understand, either directly prior to that first time we had the test, which was 6 weeks ago with this one. And so that proper chemical process of dechlorination and everything has taken place on the system, and it's been flushed. And in recent weeks, I think more than just Yates is going through and flushing and turning on these fixtures
Yeah.
every week.
They've been scheduled to flush every hour on the hour now, so, or staggered, but every hour. So we're flushing them 24 times a day.
Which
Steve,
is
on the
more than
picture,
they ever
on the
will be.
picture you sent us of that plunger, is that plunger not supposed to be a solid stainless steel?
It is solid stainless steel, from what I understand.
And what is that, what appears to be rust on the end?
Sediment deposits, anything that would be picked up from the water, anything that's magnetized in the water, will get attracted to it, electrified.
Can you take that plunger that we saw in that picture and take a rag and wipe that off?
Yes, that's been the process that we do whenever we clean it.
And it cleans completely up, it doesn't have any residue left?
Make sure that any particles that have started to attach to it are not attached to it, and then insert that stainless rod back into the solenoid system.
What is the seat that sits in? Is it also stainless steel?
I believe it is plastic.
That shouldn't be a problem either.
But in that instance, that was one of the items that when Mark and the group came out on Thursday did not work. And so we opened it up, we saw the rust, we sent that to Willoughby. They said to do exactly what Stephen just said, we removed with an emery cloth, we removed that rust, we put it back in operation, and it worked immediately.
Now wait a minute, I didn't say emery cloth, I said that there's a difference. And you take just a regular wiping rag and wipe that off of there. If it takes emery cloth, it's attached itself to the stainless steel. That's a whole different scenario.
In which case, I've been advised by water
That's rust.
chemists
That's rust.
that there's a high chromium content in the stainless.
Instead of
It's
being,
not not true stainless.
Emery cloth is because that's what the manufacturer that makes the product told us to use.
It shouldn't take emery cloth to wipe that off if that's a stainless steel plunger.
if all that is solids attaching to it, then it should just wipe off.
It ought to wipe off with a rag.
If emery cloth, you're sanding it back down to refit it. It's a rust.
And you're
Yeah,
opening it
it's
up
rust.
for a repeat.
Yeah.
You just made it worse, possibly. Yeah,
Well, we're
there's a
gonna get-
huge difference between how that comes off of
We're
there.
getting as many eyes on it
Yeah.
as we can.
Does the solenoid have a magnet effect to it in the operation of the
It
solenoid?
will, it would, yeah.
So it would
When
attract
it
any,
energizes, it's a magnet.
but it would attract any incidentals to the water
It's-
stream.
Or
And
iron.
that made a lot of sense
Yeah, it'd
in the
attract iron.
beginning, but now that we've continued to cycle through these over and over, and the water quality report's not showing a high sediment content, I'm at a loss. And let's
And
get our
Mark,
third-party
Let me ask this.
engineer to,
Where did you pull
report.
that water sample? Out of the system?
again, I pulled 3 samples to get a good variety in 3 different distinct areas of the facility.
Okay.
On the far north end, far south end, and the middle. I pulled a day room sink on the north end, which is good free flow of water. I pulled a med-seg shower, which goes through a valve system, and I pulled a combi unit on the far south end.
Ought to be a good sample.
That's 3 very distinct sample locations.
And the city actually tested those samples.
The city gave me, reported back the samples, from what their indication was to me, that the samples looked outstanding. They were surprised to see such good quality samples
From a
out of a
stagnant,
building
yeah.
that's been empty.
Well, that thing has got, there's a tremendous amount, it takes a tremendous amount of volume to fill that system.
Yeah.
And my first thought when I saw that plunger the other day was, well, maybe we've not flushed that system out yet, because it would take a lot of water to flush that out.
Flush it out.
Yeah.
And I agree, and that's why we've been running the toilets a couple of times a day.
Yeah. And
for
you
the last
and you
couple of
have
weeks.
that in a new plumbing situation. You always do. You're gonna have a little residue and stuff that
Right.
has to be
And that's
flushed
to be
out.
expected.
That's true.
And that's what we thought we had, but instead of the problem getting better, it's getting worse.
That's something that would cost, if we don't resolve it now, it's got to be resolved, because this would be a ongoing cost to the county for
It's
years.
not maintainable at this point.
Well, if we got into a water shortage like we have history for, this is definitely not a good solution.
Well, I'm just thinking
We're
truly the
top 5
maintenance.
water users in the county anyhow.
Yeah.
So,
So, we've got multiple eyes on the problem. We'll continue to work through it with all resources.
Scott, have you all used this supplier in other jail locations, or is this a first time for this?
Yes, we have. They're one of the main detention fixture type companies, for these kinds of facilities.
So, we keep using Hayes as an example. I would think Hayes County being taken from water from the Edwards Aquifer would be quite a bit higher and have a lot more.
Different, yeah.
Well, I have a question for Scott. Scott, is there any chance that that the actual valves are poor quality, not up to standards, and causing the problem?
Such as an import.
Yeah.
I didn't catch, I was
Is there a possibility that these stainless steel valves might actually be poor
Subpar.
quality and not being able to handle what we need?
A bad lot.
You gotta remember what we've been through the last year and a half.
I guess that there would always be a possibility of that, but we did send this concern to Willoughby,
Okay.
and I forwarded their response that there needs to be periodic cleaning of the system, and I'll re-forward that to everyone and the care that's required to ensure the functionality of the system for these electromagnetic valves.
Well, if we got 1,000 valves and we're gonna have to take them apart every other day, then it's not a maintainable system. I don't think that Willoughby wants to go down that road.
The captain's gonna need some more help.
They're not gonna sell many fixtures if that's the case.
You know, it would be curious to me to know if maybe there was a supply change, considering what we've been through the last year and a half. There are lots of different grades of stainless steel, and some of them will rust.
And maybe we do a metallurgy test on one of the plungers and see if we
That
get a high
would
chromium
not be a
content.
bad idea.
I mean, at this point,
I think it's somewhat prescriptive of what the down the road, like a filter could be added to the system to aid, in the cleaning process over the entire central system.
Let's don't
But-
filter it, let's fix it.
But if we're showing a
Vital.
clean water sample in 3 locations, that just seems counterproductive.
Well, something's causing solids to build up, and so, you know, getting some folks involved that have a better understanding of how that takes place, would be a good
Okay.
step, because clean to what we drink might be one thing, but how it affects a system like this could be another, and beyond that, I'm a
Well-
little bit outside my skis on
Well, Scott, I disagree with you there because they're designed to work with municipal water systems. And I'm sure Wichita Falls water, while not the best in the world, it's certainly not the worst.
Well, it's superior rated system.
Yeah, it is. So it would stand to reason that any design system would work with standard municipal water quality.
How many of the fixtures are affected, Mark?
Every common unit, 1,000.
Every one.
I'd say at least 50% whenever we did our walkthrough on.
I'm sorry, Lisa, what
At least
percent?
50,
When we did our walkthrough on Friday with JD, I would say probably between my list and his list, probably half of the plumbing fixtures were faulty.
Okay.
Failure,
And
failure at
and
50%.
where I'm going with that is if you had a breakdown like that where you had about half and half, that would make me look more toward a change of supplier somewhere in the system. But if they were all that way, I wouldn't suspect
Yeah, one
that.
of our 60-man units has no working fixtures right now. You know, one of the other things is on the Willoughby system, some of those are an override, but then some of them are not showing any errors, but you still cannot flush them from the panel or the toilet. So I think there's other things going on with that system itself on top of the toilet issue.
and I would like to add, and visited with Captain Patterson Friday evening via telephone, that when y'all walked Friday afternoon, you had somebody in the control room manual or remotely flushing with the intercom on, and you were not getting
Correct.
the
So-
correct toilets to respond.
So once we finished our walkthrough, me and Lieutenant Hankins went back to main control. She was on the panel, I was on the Willoughby panel, and I would say, for example, cell 1. She would pull cell 1, I would flush the toilet in cell 1, but it would flush in a different cell. So we would have to go through and pull every intercom to figure out which one it was. So they're not lined up. That's why I'm wondering if there's also an issue on the Willoughby side, and it may not be a bad idea to get them back on site and run through that entire system. Because if something is switched, it's not gonna function right. And it does not meet the blueprints.
That's just a huge deal.
Especially if you're trying to deal with water issues in one of those areas.
Yeah, it needs
You
to,
don't have
the
control.
correct toilet needs to be reporting to the, on the panel.
Yeah.
So what happened was whenever I got done and I had my list of what was still not functioning properly, I went to main control. I tried to flush them on the Willoughby panel, and most of them I was not able to automatically flush or manually flush.
That's not good.
And it wasn't showing an error.
Well, I think we're headed the right direction though, Mark. Get your
Everyone's
expert.
doing everything we can do at this point, but
I mean,
it's
we
still
do
very
need to
frustrating.
understand no doubt, exactly what's causing this dilemma. And
Mark, who can do a metallurgy test?
is there one judge in?
If I'd have said that,
I
Judge,
don't
you'd have hit
know,
me with a hammer.
I've never done a metallurgy
remember
test, but I've watched enough Oak Island to know that there's somebody out there that can do it.
Well, there is somebody, and I don't know if there's anybody in Wichita Falls, and why not go test one?
I'm sure there's somebody.
Yeah.
We'll if that's the next step, that's the next step.
Okay.
To reach out and,
Well, that
And have
seems
that
like
metal
an
tested.
important missing link in this. that-
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that would eliminate the questions of whether we've got I mean, they could have, once again, we go back to this supply deal from what we've been through the last year, they could have missed the formula a little. I mean, there's lots of possibilities, and if you're a little bit off, it could make all it we got to go to eliminating things.
Yeah.
That's my point, and that might
and
be
that
one
was
to
one of the
eliminate.
things that I was advised to look at the chromium content
Yeah.
in the metal, so there's where we are. We do go to jail commission Thursday.
Yeah.
And for the tables, I don't see an issue getting that.
I think some of these aircraft guys can do that.
But I appreciate the efforts, but
Yeah.
we really need to get this problem resolved, and not just resolved to get through the inspection, but resolved permanently. That's, unless y'all have anything else, that's all I have for LEC.
Scott, one quick question. We were talking about trying to get together Wednesday evening, kind of go over just be sure everybody's on the same sheet of music before we appear with the jail commission. Would you all be available probably about 7 or 8 o'clock that night?
I would be, I do plan on driving down that evening, so if anybody else is there in the evening, I could meet in person or from a phone, so.
Okay. I don't know exactly who else besides Kurt really has to make any presentation. I'll do, Commissioner I1 will do something to address the jail commission and then introduce that, but there may be questions. I don't see anything beyond that. Do you have any idea whether, we're gonna be in the guest quarters there at 303 15th Street. And, we can meet in probably my room would be fine, and do that. And if necessary, we'll get you on by phone if you're not there. But do we know if Kurt's gonna drive down that morning, or he's gonna come down the night before?
I don't know, why don't I'll just send an email to the four of us and try to coordinate something for that evening.
Okay, all right, that'd be good.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate y'all's efforts. We gotta stay at it.
All right,
Elevator projects, really not a lot of change this week. I got a text message earlier this morning that both the city of Wichita Falls and TxDOT are not in favor of putting the planter box security berms in front of the annex, so we'll continue down that route.
Let me ask you, I had a question on the elevator at the annex, Mark. When you, as the way I knew, to come out of the elevator into the building, into that corridor, when I walk down that corridor, half of that wall is the new painted, then it hits the old wallpaper.
Yeah, well, staff will paint the rest of that, what we painted.
So we'll paint that, okay.
Yeah, that was the only thing that was in the contract.
Oh,
was to
okay,
paint
gotcha.
The new part,
Gotcha.
so.
That'll be very good. I love the paint, and I think that's the look that will be really nice, so.
Yeah, well, the staff will paint that hallway, because eventually
Okay.
the other side of that hallway is going to be torn out at some
Okay.
point, so there was no sense in putting that in the contract.
okay. Let's go back to Mr. Hampton's return. Thank you, with the balances requested for as of December 31, 2020.
And
Could I get a date on these sheets? Mine's
this
not.
is supposed to be December, this last one Bob handed us out that has a 5,100,000.
Which one? Is that it?
Right here, yes.
Okay, this is what? Give me a date.
December 30th, 2020.
Okay, 12, 30,
31, actually.
21?
31.
No, I was going,
December.
31. Oh, I was going to say it hadn't been.
End of the month.
Yeah,
And
And the
here's,
other one is June 30th,
so
Here-
it's 6:30.
2000.
here's our problem. Bob, and I think the difference would belong to precinct 4, but you're showing a $5.1 million balance. Cheryl is showing a $3.7 million balance. Her number is including precinct 5. I don't know if any funds on hand are, precinct 5 are in this total.
Well, I think probably what's confusing you, let me tell you where the genesis of my numbers, they come off the bank statements. So these are what I call the real dollars. These are the monies that I can tell you I can lay my hands on tomorrow. Now, from there, the auditor is constantly doing invoices and switching and changing, and that's their job. I don't have access to that sort of thing as far as end of the month reports. These numbers are all gleaned off of bank statements. So, like I've told you many times, this is a snapshot of where we are financially.
Where's that? 2.3 and 2.4.
Cheryl, when
When
you
was
all make payments for
2.1 in
20
April.
obligations, but
April
you're
what?
making them in
This year.
2021,
2.1.
with bills coming in
this is-
afterwards, would
Then
that
what I don't
then go back and adjust? Because at the time he
Well,
took them,
And then this
That
is
was 12.30.
June.
I agree
So
with
2
you, Judge,
months.
but we don't have
It went from-
expenditures of
how'd it
that
go?
high nature.
Not usually at the end of the year.
No, that's not your
We don't really have
optimum.
those adjustments.
$1.3 million is a lot for, to flow out of us.
And I have a question, Bob.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at a 12/31/20 for precinct 1, and it shows 1.7 million.
Or 1.8 nearly.
Well, 1.797, but 1.7.
Right.
In
This is the
April,
one, in
2.186.
April of '21, he has a sheet here that shows he has 2.1 million. That's in April. That's just 4 months later.
Yeah.
And then 2 months after that, he shows that he has 1.6 million. I'm just using his for an example. That seems like a
Well,
astronomical, how can it move that much?
Well, look at precinct 4.
That's what I'm
677.
I'm
You're not
struggling.
losing anything. What you're doing is, I'm using the tools that I have available, which is an outdated 1957 Chevrolet, to make the financial transfers. That's the old TSG. I've made no attempt to camouflage my feelings about that deal.
Well, with $1.5 million increase from
And I tried to
December
explain to Commissioner
to
Beecham
now,
how-
I've lost money
And those transfers came from
from me.
from this, what we call the bank manager that I brought up to re-show you. This is what I was printed out as far as money assets available. Every what was it every day? Within this category is precincts 1 through 4 with precinct 5. And according to TSG, precinct 5 equaled the 4 numbers represented by the individual precinct.
Well,
Minus precinct 5 numbers then gives us the numbers of dollars on hand. Let me show
Okay.
you what I'm talking about. I have a feeling, I'm looking at Commissioner Muller, and he's thinking, what the heck did you just say?
well,
Here is what this looks like, Barry.
All right.
Yeah, see right here, precinct 5 is this circle number. And then my instructions from the old way of doing was to try to keep these numbers somewhat in balance to pay the bills. Bottom line is just our solvency, but you don't really come to my office to see, what's on your budget dollars. That's the auditor's deal. My job is to make sure that the monies that we do have are adequately represented in appropriate
all right, well,
interest accounts.
I still have a very difficult time understanding
And hopefully-
why we've gained $1.4 million and I'm losing money and everyone else is gaining money.
As I showed you the other day,
I'm not spending money.
And once again, I told you, I heard what you're saying,
Yeah.
and we've adjusted it, so you'll see a definite change in your account Monday. But right here, your balance is way high as opposed to the other three. So to keep the money on hand to pay the bills, that's
So we got
predicated-
communism and you just take my money to give to everyone else. I'm being
my job
frugal
is
with
to,
my.
my job is
funds.
to make sure that the money is in the,
Okay.
in the checking account to pay the bills.
Well,
Uh,
no
The
one,
auditor's responsibility is to show you exactly
okay,
what your budget dollars are.
well, no one has yet been able to explain to me why.
You know, and
Now,
hopefully,
now, Mark,
hopefully I
tell
can't
me-
speak to this directly because I don't have any.
Tell me the April number again, you know what your December number was,
April number was
1.79.
2.186.
186 was your
Yeah,
April?
now let's contrast that. Your December number was 677,000. Your April number was 1.3, and you're still at 1.3. Whereas my April number was 2.186, and now I'm at 1.6. I have not spent that money.
Yeah, but Mark, the difference there, now, the decrease after that, the April though, would be an influx of new revenue coming in the door after December 30th, December 31st.
So do I not get revenue?
Yeah, you ramped up to 2.1, but
Your transfer out to the general fund to pay, or to 225 to pay the lease payments did come out.
I don't have anything on lease.
Well, everybody puts in for the lease, so as
For
the budget
precinct
has
five?
got 250,000 from each precinct to
Yeah.
go back in to pay off.
because that's out of precinct 5, Mark,
Well,
we
I
all
don't
share
have
in
lease.
that.
I don't have lease payments other than what I pay to precinct 5.
Right.
I buy my
Right,
stuff
but-
outright.
Right, everybody puts in towards that.
See, I don't have any control over it.
I would love to see 225 kind of dissolved, where it just, there's no transfers into 225 and out of 225, we just hit your line items directly in each of your budgets. But
Well-
that's a work in progress, Rome wasn't built in a day. But one of the things is, you'll see on the investment sheets is 3 of you are all in the same investment. So if that muddies the waters too, when we're trying to,
No,
do the accounting on that. So if we do one investment per precinct and we don't have all of this money, that will make those things clearer.
Is that one investment divided by the calculation for 4, Bob? Or is that 4 investments?
The only thing, the only thing that you guys have as a combinee is if you're looking at your end of June report, is the bond that I bought from First National Bank. And I used the lump sum monies on that, and which indicated that 375,000 came out of each of your accounts. But are we getting a 1% return on that, which is significant since,
But when that investment matures, you then take the total amount, divide it by 4, and place it back into those.
exactly. As is the interest that comes in, is paid in one lump sum. I've divided it by 4. And how this works is when an instrument matures and/or interest is paid, then I transfer that money every time from whatever that account was into the appropriate precinct. Those dollars are reflected on not a daily, but probably I do about 3 transfers a week now, trying not to drive Jose crazy because I know he's trying to do his thing over there with the munis. But I have affidavits or paperwork that shows you exactly where all that is, and I'll be glad to glean all that up if you want to. But that goes out of my office, transfers into Jose, which is recorded on, or will be recorded eventually on the munis deal.
So, Bob, tell me, so what's happening here?
My point of that is, if I interrupted you, my point of that is, none of this is Bob Hampton. This is all dictated through either an affidavit and/or reaction to a instrument that has responded.
Well, like on December the 31st, I have a CD for $677,490. And my total cash balance is equal to that. So what am I paying my bills with?
Okay, you're looking at the end of the year, 677,000?
Yes, the
Okay.
whole sum of money is
See,
invested.
that's that gold account again that you have set up. Each one of you have a gold account. And the reason you don't, I mean, look back a year ago from this. I mean, each one of you had 3 or 4 investment CDs and/or government agencies. Now, you've got 2 CDs, and that's what I told Commissioner Fincannon. You know, my question is, why are we wanting to close out all these investments?
Well, but Bob, I don't go back to my question.
Yeah,
If
but
my-
those are daily amounts. In other words, you have access, the flexibility on those is that this is money at hand.
That gold account's liquid,
We
isn't it?
can draw that money out.
It's liquid.
It's liquid. That's
Okay.
our liquidity right there.
Okay, then jump
But
up.
we're getting 70 basis points on it, which is something that I need to share with you. American National is, I mean, above and beyond.
Yeah. But if you move up to precinct 3, just above that, there are a couple of those investments that aren't liquid. Correct? Immediately.
Which sheet are you looking at now?
Well, I'm move up to precinct 3, that Cross River.
Yeah, that CD.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a CD. That's not liquid.
Let's slide over to the right. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
That's.
But I
that's
like
what I'm
the
saying,
number.
across your
Yeah, I like-
1.8.
Yeah, I like the
You
number.
can't even get 1.8 if you held a gun on somebody.
I know. That's why it would not be a good idea to get rid of that.
Well, it expires the end of the year.
Yeah, you know, in November, and your Kathy in precinct 1, that expires or matures 1.6 and at the end of this month. So once again, my point is, you know, why are we going to do anything like this?
But the discussion is then to put all of these in one investment rather than the 4 that we're showing there. Is that right, Cheryl? Is that what we're talking about?
What we're
No.
talking about is that instead of 4 of you sharing one investment, you would have one investment per precinct. So whatever your rate is, it's totally yours. All 500 is yours, all the interest is yours, instead of 5, 5, 3, or whatever
Yeah.
the combination there is.
Would we
It makes the accounting cleaner, makes it easier for you to track. We aren't sharing.
Would you lose
we
some
aren't commingling
points?
precincts.
Absolutely.
I
That's
still-
the reason that we did the combine.
I mean, you'd
with
lose
$1
some
million
points.
and then divided it by 4, or a little over, I think it's $1.25 million, because then we get 1%. If you notice, this goes out to August of next year.
I still
We get
haven't.
1%. Nobody's getting 1% money.
But I thought the gold checking was what was it? 0.28? Oh, just 0.28.
That's the sheriff's goal now, Jeff, and it only has 38,000 in it. The balance dictates kind of the interest rate.
That's the K-9 deal. What we
The
talking about.
gold precinct.
But you're gonna
is-
have to, that's what
is We've got
we can just
significant dollars in
figure
it.
out right here.
When no one's been able to explain to me still why I keep going down and everyone else is going up.
And hopefully you'll get me till next Monday before you keep holding your breath.
Would it be better if we let you all get the materials and next Monday afternoon during a budget work session, we sit down instead of piecemealing and handing out this, that, let's put together, show the history, we show 20 is in the books and we can show how what you had in investments, what you had to draw out to pay bills, and we should be able to come back, because the difference in the time that Cheryl's reporting, you're reporting as of 12/31/20. You have gone back and made adjustments, and we ought to be able to see how those adjustments of paying bills that were still from 20 that were paid in 21. And probably have a lot more meaningful discussion.
Cheryl, what's your concept of why the number is 3.7 million, your reconciled number, but Bob's is 5.1?
Bob is only showing assets. He is only showing investments in the money market. He has no expenses or any of those, depreciation, none of that is reflected on this 5 million. He is only giving you one part of the picture.
He's showing gross and you're showing net.
And that's what
Yeah.
that's why it's hard for us to, it's on the agenda to dissolve this account, and I don't really understand why would we want to dissolve an account if we're making better, we couldn't go get that account right now for that interest rate. We'd lose money by doing that.
No.
But
you
I do
can't.
think
You
we-
can get the same, you can get 4 of those, right, Bob? We'll still get, because we're large depositor, we still can get the gold.
We can get
Precinct
gold, but I don't know
accounts,
that the
right?
interest rate would be as good as what it was then.
You can get the gold, but if you did away with the CD, I don't, hey, if you guys wanna do this, I'm just here to hold the horse. I just
And
salute
if that's
smartly
something
and say,
we need
yes,
to
sir.
do over time as it matures, that's fine.
My job
But
is.
I think the record keeping would be a lot cleaner to have you guys not commingling investments.
Me too. I do agree with that. It'd be simpler to keep it all together because we should be able to look at some kind of system that
Yes.
shows exactly where his money has gone.
it
and be
just
able to
is
show
very
it.
clean, so you can get the backup to it, so instead of having to require spreadsheets and so forth, I think if we go to that, and that's fine, we wanna do that as it matures, I do think the accounting will be cleaner, the auditing of the records will be cleaner, you guys following it will be cleaner, so that you can make better decisions.
Well, from appearances, if my precinct 1 constituents looked at these patterns, they
Right.
would think that I'm spending crazily, and that's just not the case.
Right, so
That is
again,
absolutely not the
we
case.
can, we get that split to each of your own, the records will be a lot cleaner than if there were open records requests, it doesn't require 8 million spreadsheets to back up the number, that
Well,
was.
I think Commissioner, the term would be like the proverbial drunken sailor.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone else is gaining money and I'm losing money at the same rate you are gaining it. It makes no sense because I'm running a very frugal precinct. I'm not spending money wildly. So it makes very little sense to me when in comparison to the other precincts, why they're going up and I'm going down by considerable amounts of money.
Bob, you're preparing a report for next Monday anyhow, it's a regular scheduled time. Would you give a state of the county's finances? Cheryl, is that with the other things you all got going on, is that reasonable that you all could come back to something in a week or,
Yeah, we should be able to.
okay? All
I
right,
think Jose's already been working on that anyway.
okay, I think you gotta look at the times of one and the other, and all we need is the logic between here and here, and I don't think that's gonna be that difficult to show. But it is, yeah, but I agree Commissioner Beecham would like a better feel for why his balances are what, like they are.
Well, he's not the only one. I mean, I've struggled trying to make sense of the numbers on most all of this, especially during budgets. And it's hard to follow the way it's currently set up.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Okay, so right now, no action on 11 and 12 until we feel like we've got firmer ground to stand. Is that where we're headed, or do y'all want to do something on that?
Have you looked at our investment timeline, Cheryl? I mean, how does that fall with the implementation of what we'll need to put into Munis? Or even if we put it in Munis, can we change it in Munis?
Well, yeah, absolutely, you can always do a journal entry and change it in Munis. We follow Bob's spreadsheet, his affidavits, the things he sends over, and how we record investments and interest earned, so.
We just need a better line item documentation to show us how that's working, because we're struggling right now understanding it at all. Any of us are.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm trying to make it so that we're getting to a cleaner picture for everyone.
I guess I'm not following why that if we have, as Bob is doing now, to gain the maximum return on the money, he's putting all the money together. We pay bills all out of one
Checking account, but not per budget.
how do we assign how much,
So
let's say $500,000 is being paid out, and it's not 100,000.
depends on what it's for. So,
Yeah,
you know, if the expense belongs to precinct 1, it goes to precinct 1.
Right.
Or 4, it comes over with the bills. It's not all aggregated into 225.
yeah,
The only thing that's really kind of a large sum usually is the transfers over to pay out the lease expenses every
Yeah.
year on the equipment that's paid out of 225. But otherwise, everything is set to each precinct
yeah, but that's only the equipment that's actually been,
out of 225. And
Out of
really,
225.
That's really the only thing that needs to come directly out of 225. Everything else can be divided and assigned to each precinct's budget. And so you can see all of the expenses.
but precinct 5 had $100,000 lease payment, or interest payment going, it'd be 25,000 out of each
Yes,
precinct transferred into that to pay out.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
And truthfully, we don't even need to do the transfers. We can do it where we just hit 25,000 from 1, 2, 3, and 4 individually on the same check versus transfer to 225 and then pay it out at 225.
Yeah,
We don't need to do that. It just makes that more steps for the same end result.
But Cheryl, is there a tool, or do you see within those precincts on the 5, do you see a net cash between cash and investment? You see a total?
Yeah,
Because
each
sometimes we're
precinct-
confused by what we think we have laid back, and it's commingled with what we're currently,
So each
budgeting.
precinct has their own balance sheet. The balance sheet tells you what your assets are, the cash and investments, any equipment that's designated specifically to a particular precinct. That's
But-
all on your balance sheet.
but, so this number from Matt that he sent us, that y'all had reconciled, that is a balance number. It was on July the 30th at 9.
Let me find out.
Oh, yeah, that's one you gave me a copy of.
Capper that I consult for the budget.
I didn't hear you, Matt, sorry.
You're good. Was that the amount that fund balance at 12/31/2020?
Yes,
Yeah. So those are the Capper fund balances. What's the fund balance of that account? Yes.
so that is investments and cash on hand.
That includes that, but it also includes any liabilities you have at the end of the year, such as accounts payable, invoices that were outstanding, transfers owed to other funds, or transfers owed in from other funds, and stuff like that. So it has a wide spectrum of things it includes.
Okay.
okay. It would seem we have no action
All
to
you're
take.
looking at, I mean, if you were to look at the balance sheet from month to month, what you show in investments may be offset with your cash, and in most instances, it's the way that the money has been being transferred to pay the bills every week for the road and bridge precinct. Those precincts have negative cash.
Now say that again, Matt?
So, every week when the bills are paid for road and bridge, they're all taken out of that road and bridge precinct 5 money. But they initially come out of the cash for each of these precincts, because that's where the expense live. And so, when you look at your cash or your investments, if you pull up your account, you might have 1.4 million in investments. However, you may be negative in cash, 200,000, but because precinct 5 shows $200,000 also in cash, then it's, historically, it's been marked as okay. That's what we're trying to fix, is that just because there's money set over here that it's in the joint fund and all that, that it should be by the precinct. The precinct is responsible for its own bills and
what do y'all want to do with this?
I say for right now.
We won't look at that
I don't think we
additional
have the
Yeah, I
information.
think we need
We
to
don't.
gather more information.
So, no action taken on these two items, and we'll work towards Monday afternoon to have a work session on this and do that. Okay. Willie's out today, and so I don't think we have anything additional on budget. I don't think we've gotten through.
Judge,
No, okay.
we'd asked Lisa and Patrick to come. She was going to bring Patrick, because Will was out, to talk about some of their things we had discussed Friday, or that we had mentioned Friday, but we didn't have it on the agenda, so we,
And Judge, did you want Jackie Hannah to come over? Or do you just want to wait till it's coming
Well,
Friday?
okay. We've got a 1:30 and a 3 o'clock meeting this afternoon, because I wasn't aware that we had anything carrying over. We can go on through lunch right now and do that if she wants to come explain that to us, or,
Or can you wait till Friday for her?
yeah, we can wait till Friday for her and make it definite and not maybe. Okay, then what do we have, Chief, from you all?
So,
Are we doing that?
I think it was Friday, we
Today?
were notified
think so.
that,
Everybody's responsible?
one of our maintenance men has put in his resignation. His last day will be in the middle of August. He's going over to be an assistant plant manager, making better money, better hours. So we're gonna be losing him. You know, when we first lost, Mr. Dixon, one of the things that he had brought up was that they were short-staffed. When I was talking to Mr. Drada on Friday, he made the same comment. And so I started doing a little bit of digging. Now granted, Dixon left, in June, but so far, in 2020, we had 303 documented work orders between the annex and the downtown jail. Now that does not include any call-outs, any emergency services, stuff with the Muffin Monster or HVAC stuff that's after hours work. We don't generate work orders on those usually because they're emergency fixes. This year so far, we've had 382 work orders between the two facilities. Again, that does not include any emergency services. Out of the 31 weeks that we've had so far, between both of our maintenance men, they've been called out 74 times between the both of them. So roughly, they're being called out at least once a week to the jail for emergency issues. We have really limited what they come out to the jail for. Basically, if there's a power failure and inmates stuck in a cell, or we're flooding, then we don't have them come out. So, I don't know exactly what the plans are with the current facilities that we're in. However, I do know that if you keep, for example, if we keep the holding and booking, if we keep that open, if we keep any part of the annex commission, those have to be maintained. Meaning we have to maintain the plumbing, we have to maintain everything in that facility. So on top of this brand new facility that we're already having all these problems with, and maintaining whatever facilities we keep open, I don't know that we can do it with two maintenance positions.
We're not keeping anything commissioned. That first floor
The
will
annex
be,
is not going to be commissioned?
no. No, the first floor will just be the holding area for court, so it's my understanding that does not have to be commissioned.
But
It's just,
It's-
just
It's still part of jail commission rules. Court holding is,
court holding.
yes, sir.
I may misunderstand them.
but we still have a large problem just with the LEC with two men in rotation. It's
Right.
still
See,
just there as a
That's the
problem.
problem that we ran into, is Mr. Jada has been on call for the last, I think it was 6 weeks, because Dixon was out, we replaced him with Mr. Dickerman, and then Mr. Dickerman had to go out on FMLA. So Jada has been the only maintenance man that we've had for several weeks now, to be able to do on-call, so.
Okay, the person you just said went on FMLA, that's because they've been here a year or not?
No, it's Mr. Dickerman, he's worked for us for about 20 years now. He was
Okay.
just transferred into the maintenance position.
Okay.
I apologize.
Yeah, I was gonna say that didn't add up.
Yeah.
I thought that name sounded too familiar.
Yeah, and I know, I know at one point in time we had courthouse maintenance on our rotation, but I think the two that were doing that are not here anymore. I believe, I'm not 100% positive what happened with that, but I mean, with the extent of plumbing issues that we already have in the new facility, on top of maintaining all the HVAC, all the plumbing, everything else, and then just staffing, I don't know that it can be done with 2 people.
Are we not utilizing any of our building maintenance here for assistance with the jail?
They have
When they
to-
need assistance, yes. And of course, we do have Ricky now that's HVAC that'll take most of the HVAC issues that we have. So that was the whole purpose of hiring him as an HVAC person. So that'll take some of that burden off of jail maintenance staff.
We probably should utilize them a little bit more, no different than bringing in the deputies to work some in the jail to take the load off
Yeah,
the
they
jail.
don't have a
Well-
problem doing that, but.
Yeah, but, I mean, we're still.
We're gonna need more staff for that position,
I
yeah.
think so, and what, we're such a sitting duck for, I was telling them on Friday, they laughed at us when they hired Dryden.
Thanks, Bob.
Hey, Bob, we'll see you at 3?
See you 3.
Thanks, sir.
They laughed at us when they hired.
1,800 hours in
15.
15, yeah.
What I would like to see us do, and it's just my opinion, I'd like to see us look for a qualified plumber and share the services of a qualified plumber throughout.
And, my comment was Friday about Dryden. I mean, what a fantastic, dedicated individual. But they laughed at us because not only did they steal our guy that was getting more ramped up pay in our scenario, but they saved money because they had anticipated paying a lot more for a maintenance man than what they were able to acquire one. So we're going to have to think about those strategies, especially with putting in the additional training that comes with the LEC. You're just going to have to be a brighter star out there to have been educated in some of these vendors that we're utilizing in the newer technologies, and no different than the sink valves we talked about earlier. And all of that costs us money to train those individuals, and then they're getting picked off from us. And we've lost some good ones lately. And I know that y'all are concerned about having the right person in and around the jail, and so that certainly makes sense as well, not just from a maintenance perspective.
I don't believe Dixon left for that reason. I believe he pursued his degree, so he's,
Well, he went to probation,
yeah.
which is what he had his degree. But one of the things that Ms. Jones and I have talked about is we can probably do some position and some other enhancements salary-wise because of the classification of the personnel with the American Recovery Plan Act money. But what we have to keep in mind, whatever we do today is going to go on. We're not going to say to people, boy, in 2 years your pay is going to go down. We can't, but we've got to build that in. But it gives us some relief to build that in.
But Judge, is it not doable for the period of time that we have now? We're back into a COVID scenario again that's worrisome to folks. Can we not just do it for I'd mentioned to Lisa that, the patrol guy that's really basically most of the time interacting with 1 or 2 individuals and in his car a lot of times now to be put in a situation.
No, sir, nothing in that has changed. You got to follow the vague rules and hope it meets the category. We feel pretty good about certain category of personnel, jailers being one of those, possibly patrol. There was
Some of our janitors
Yeah.
fit that bill.
maintenance people might.
Yes, possibly.
So it's not what we're back into. It's what's already there. They're not changing anything. We're trying to get clarity to it, and that's the biggest problem, is getting clarity.
But
And if we give the premium pay, which just remember, in 2 years when we can know, or whatever the time period is up for the ARPA funds, what are we gonna do with those guys now? We can't say, oh, well, now we have to take back the money that we've given you for 2 years, the premium pay. So we're gonna have
that's a bigger issue right there.
Yeah.
You can't just throw out a premium pay out there and then,
Well,
I mean, I think you can take it
I'm
away.
talking
If
about-
it's not there, it ain't there.
You're not gonna be real popular.
Well,
No.
but what I'm thinking, you only receive the premium pay in the jail if you've come off the street and you're helping Lisa out with rotation and you're burning up or eliminating, well, it's overtime probably for us anyway, but you're reluctant to do it. It's not like everybody's waving their hand, pick me, pick me.
So you're wanting to only give premium pay if you're working overtime?
If,
If
no,
you're
I'm only
called on
wanting to give
go
premium
outside
pay if I go into
outside
the
of a
jail.
normal job.
Well, there's,
Let us get this developed, and I need to get some input out of the sheriff's department and what we can do with, after Cheryl's working, looking at this, and we do have some room, it looks like, to do this. It's up to a maximum of $13 an hour.
Yeah, an additional $13 an hour or $25,000 a year, so.
Yeah.
But they also don't want you to go over, 150% of what the state average employee
I
makes,
see.
which is 65,000, is
Oh,
about
okay.
what they're saying the state average is. Basically, they want you to give it to those lower
So we're
income
just
workers that are usually
Or just
the
average
ones that are at
employees.
the bottom of the totem pole, dealing with the COVID,
Right.
doing the sanitation. They don't want you giving the extra 25 grand to somebody making.
Right.
And historically-
Sitting behind a desk that has no contact.
Gotcha.
That's kind of what they're talking.
This is really not any different from grants we've seen in the past, and historically, Judge, I don't know that we've ever not just absorbed that down the road. There may have been a few positions that we lopped off, but it,
Very few, but
That's
we
the
did.
Very
thing.
few.
We're gonna have to absorb the additional cost
Yeah.
at some point down the road.
yeah,
But we can plan on that.
I mean, that's
And
just the way
we
it
can-
works.
But
Yeah.
I think we can apply something to help resolve some of this issue now. But I appreciate that work Cheryl and Matt dug out to maybe give us that opportunity. So,
I'll reiterate, if we do look at bringing on another person, we probably should think seriously about it being a qualified plumber
yeah,
and
So-
share that asset across all facilities.
The current, we went ahead and posted Jada's position, since he will be leaving. And so we did that internally, and it's also posted on the website, so hopefully.
well, gosh, go broader than that.
yeah, we definitely need to get it out past.
Internally and website leaves a lot of lacking.
Lisa, we've got an Indeed account. If you'll talk to Tanya, she can help you with
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah, that worked well.
But
Finding
I
maintenance
don't know
folks.
if it's posted on Indeed or not, I just know that, I talked with, this happened Friday, so
Yeah. Yeah,
it's been very
But-
quick.
we found the broader posting gets a much bigger, bigger pond, more fish. So, okay.
And Courthouse maintenance is always there to back up, so.
All right. Anything else under the budget idea? Okay. And we do have, Commissioner Watts, you and I have a meeting at 1:30 with people on the broadband that were sent to us, might have some solutions.
Thanks.
And then 3
Thank y'all.
o'clock will be Commissioner Fincan, Mr. Hampton, Ms. Jones, probably Matt on,
Matt's coming.
okay. All right.
What is it over, Judge, at 3?
3 o'clock is talking about some of the funding and changing some of the way we handle accounts. But we thought it'd be better to have that discussion than what we had today. We could probably eliminate that and prepare some of it, make next Monday a little more fruitful.
We're still gonna continue today at 3 then?
This,
Okay.
no, just, it's immediate, it's not
Yeah.
Commissioner's Court.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Cheryl, for,
You're welcome. I mean,
Speaking
I might
today.
have to put together a little thing on basically how fund accounting works and a little bit more numbers on how we're getting from Bob Cooper to the actual.
well, your office deals with incoming and outgoing expenses.
That's correct.
Bob's office only does with investments.
That's
So you have, it's a little misleading for the Commissioners Court when Bob presents his numbers because he doesn't have access to all
Well,
your
and
side.
what he's presenting also is just how the investments are looking.
Right.
That's not what your budget is.
And I don't really,
Just because those monies are available in your accounts does not mean you actually can use them.
Right.
Because if it's not a budgeted expense, you can't actually have.
But, Mickey, that'd be, to me, though, Cheryl, the problem that gives me heartburn is that
Okay.
I'm looking at,
We're getting off here. Let's, yeah, I just wanted to announce those meetings because people were here and be sure we had them. Okay, if there's no other business to be brought before the court, it's 11:51 and we're adjourned.
Yeah, I hope we can get this finance deal nailed down once and for all, because it's been ongoing.
The new software
Yeah,
will help that greatly.
yeah, but we got to get it set up to do it the right way. You know, I mean, get it in there the right way and get it organized.
who's gonna solve all the war problems today?
What do you say, young man?
Snag it for a second.
Yeah.